Sweet surrender as I love, serve, and remember.
That's karma yoga of service. I just want to do a quick, before we go, that's pretty much karma yoga. We got the examples. But before we go into the details, to the extent that we are, I want to just do a quick recap of the yoga. So remind me, what does yoga mean? You guys got it. Nice. Union with God. And that's really important because the way a lot of times these are translated is or at least when I've read it, it's a path to God. And so there's always this feeling of separation, but the ultimate of all of these paths in Hinduism is not separation, it's union. So whether it's I, thou, and you're coming together as one, or you're the I am, in both cases, it's total unification. That's the intention of these paths. It's not just to get you close to, in the direction of, but actually unified with this infinite presence of the divine, which is also why I continue to invite you to inquire in your own jhana practice. Just gotta say, I looked up the pronunciation of that, and all three videos had something different, so I'm a little confused how to say it, but I'm just gonna say jhana for now. Could be wrong. That's the path of the reflective. So to reflect, even if I'm going to become unified with God, do I have understanding of what that means? And am I willing to explore what other people say? Because just in the exploration of how other people describe God, the universe, Brahma, because the way you is described in Buddhism is very different than we would describe it in the Judeo-Christian teaching. Allah, all these different versions of what the divine is, to read about them and say, can I open my heart to all of them? Is this how I see it? So that starts to open up that path of jhana yoga, which is the path of reflection, knowledge. And it's not knowledge like memorized knowledge. It's knowledge that you gain from experience and from deep inquiry. So if someone tells you this is the truth, there's only one power, one presence, that's a concept. That's not knowledge. That's something you've memorized. Wisdom, deep knowing, is when you've explored it for yourself, and you've explored it, and you continue to explore it for the rest of your life, because truth is infinite, that you continue to explore it and have, and when you do, it actually expands your consciousness. It's not just a concept that expands, it's your actual consciousness. By thinking about God, you become what you think about. So the more strange some concepts are that you might be totally different than the way you see it, the more you allow yourself to contemplate it, then you start to become that. That's how we open up with the path of jnana yoga. Bhakti yoga, what's that path? Love and devotion. So bhakti yoga is very much I-thou path. This is where we're devoted. And so some of you are familiar with the 4 different types of love as described in Greek. So we have filial love, which is the love of the family, but it's also looking to the divine as a mother, father, God, great grandmother, spirit, something sort of that it's a parent figure for you. That could be an I-thou relationship. Then there's the platonic love. That's friendship. You look at the divine as your divine friend, your divine person who's walking this journey with you. There's the divine teacher, and there's also the divine eros, which is romantic love. And you look at the divine as your lover, your beloved. That's how I love to play with the divine personally, is it's my beloved. And that's how in that devotional I-thou relationship you can relate. So there's all these different ways to relate in the I-thou relationship, and the idea is the more you love this presence, and it's loving you, and you feel its love back to you, it takes you on a very definite path of becoming one. It's less becoming one because in this path, it's communion because there's definite two that becomes one. So there's always the dance of the two and the one. There's actually that in all of them too, but it's more distinguished in this one. The next path is Raja Yoga, meditation, yes. And so Raja Yoga is more of the I am. It's not second person, it's first person. You are now moving into a state of consciousness, not just conceptually, but you're shifting beyond the body, mind, identity into the vastness of all life, into the great I am. It's the place of so much freedom. This is why you hear all the time in New Thought, become free, be free of bondage. Being totally identified with your human self is a bondage. If everything you see is coming from your personality and your own personal history, we're limited. So we meditate to let those identities drop away and realize all that I am is I am. And we start to be in this vastness that has no borders, that doesn't have all these limits that we have humanly. And that's where the freedom and the joy and the bliss comes, because you can experience things without holding on to them. So last week I was talking about like having this joy, on the one hand, riding the waves, the Zen wave with one person, and the next moment I'm experiencing this feeling of being unworthiness. In the vastness, all of it, you can experience all of it. But you're free of all of it because none of it is your full identity. So actually you can work with it more because it doesn't define you, it doesn't own us. One of my favorite, and I haven't seen it in a while, I don't know if they took it out of the curriculum or not. One of my favorite principles from Ernest Holmes is that God, the divine presence, the universe, whatever your language, whatever your words are, is in all creation, it's through all creation, and it is as all creation, and yet it is never absorbed by that creation. Yes, that's what I want. That's the meditative consciousness. And there's many different meditation practices, but all of it is to help us expand the human, again, so there's still a little bit of the I thou, because the human experience is still happening. We never leave the relative human experience, but we're simultaneously experiencing the vastness of the infinite ocean. So that's the path of Raja Yoga, which is also called the royal path, because there's a belief that direct, that's the most, of all the four paths, it's the most direct. I think we all have our propensities towards different paths, and so I think the most direct path is the ones that works for you. Now in Buddhism, they have this concept. I did a class, I don't know if you remember, just this past winter, I did it with a Zen center, and it was on the Buddhist ox herding pictures. And it's the various stages of enlightenment. And the last stage is an enlightenment. The last stage is once you get to this place of an enlightened, expansive state, you go back to the marketplace and you give back. You give back the gifts that have been given to you. There's also that quote that I'm sure many of you have heard, after enlightenment, the laundry. The challenge, so that would be a Raja Yoga meditation centered ideal, which Buddhism, I think, is very meditation-centered. In Karma Yoga, which is service, you don't wait till you're enlightened. You actually find your enlightenment through giving service. That in giving of yourself to the outside world, you actually discover more about who you are. You can look at Mother Teresa, Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King, many examples. So I was not a church person. Our family stopped going to church when I was around in 6th grade, and I never returned. I would go once in a while, I didn't really get it. And I was in college, I was starting the whole spiritual but not religious thing. And then I did get this vision to go to a New Thought church, so I started going. I was 24, 25. I was the only one in my 20s there. So for 2 of the next New Thought churches, I'm the only one in my 20s. So my social life wasn't at New Thought churches. My social life was outside, my friends, my work, and I loved what I did. So I had a very full life, and I would go to the center, primarily for classes. And like I said, we'd stopped going to church, and my family wasn't into church. So it did not play it didn't take up much room in my consciousness. But then I got the call to ministry, and I was in Virginia at the time, did all my pre-prac classes there. So then I get called, I'm going to do this through Agape. So for those of you who don't know, that's Michael Beckwith is the minister. And this is before he became a spiritual celebrity. It's still a big center. It still has about 2,000 people probably regularly. They had 4,000 members on their records, but about 2,000 on a Sunday. So it's a big center, and I'm hearing him and the mysticism in him. So I'm called, okay, if I'm going to do ministerial training, I'm going to go there. So I drive cross country. And I thought, well, if I'm going to be a minister, I should know what this whole church thing is about. So I just jump right into volunteer work. And even with all of its members, they're always hungry for volunteers. I get thrown into it. So I went from no volunteering to like suddenly I'm serving everywhere. But I came out for classes. Now at Agape, before you, and this, I don't think they do this anywhere anymore, I don't know. They used to interview you to see if you were ready to enter Practitioner 1 training. So they did it for everybody, but especially me, because nobody knew me. I didn't have any friends. All people make friends as they go through the classes. I hadn't gone through the classes, so I'm sort of an outsider. I'm doing volunteer service, but I'm not really getting to know anybody. I'm helping out. We get along, but not friends. So I go into my interview with practitioner Janet Knox. Bless you, Janet Knox. I love you. And I am ready for this interview. I'm going to answer questions about my consciousness, what I believe. I'm ready. Her first question completely throws me. Her first question is, and Janet is she's a serious woman. Like, she's tall, very tall, deep voice, so she's leaning in. She goes, Harriet, I want to ask you a question. She goes, let's say you came to service, and we're in Santa Monica at this time. There's two bathrooms, and she said, let's say you go into that bathroom and there's no toilet paper. What are you going to do? And I was so not ready for that question. Because what I learned and what she taught me through that question is I could come to that church and do volunteer work, but I still wasn't a part of that church because I was doing volunteer work to help them. They needed my help, and I'm coming to help them. They were still other in my mind. I was still the outsider, and I thought I had every right to be outsider because there's thousands of them, and they've all been in classes together, and I don't know anybody. What she was teaching me is them aren't the responsible for making me feel like I'm part of this community. It's a choice. And the moment I start showing up and giving of myself, not just my time, but of myself to that community and say, oh, if I were at home and there was a toilet, if the toilet roll was empty, I change it because it's my home. This is my responsibility. I didn't feel that at all at that center. I always thought it was their center. I wouldn't have changed that roll of toilet paper. I would have gone to another stall. And it was so expansive to realize there's a difference between volunteering and difference between volunteering and just giving of oneself. I had been volunteering, but I hadn't been giving of myself. I hadn't brought my full presence into that community. I was always sort of standing, and I wanted to belong. I wanted to know what it felt like, and I was waiting for someone to like dub me. You now belong. You are now part of our community. I was waiting for that moment. Oh, I have to do that. I have to show up. It's a huge shift on what service actually means. It's not just the doing of it, it's the giving ourselves of it. As Ram Dass said in that reading today, thank you, Cher, that there's something going on behind the action. It's not just the action. So karmic service, we won't get into karma, that's a whole other topic, but karmic service is that service of giving of ourselves. And if in that reading, and if for those of you who have read the Bhagavad Gita, what Krishna is saying to Arjuna is, you're giving of yourself, but you're giving the fruits of what you do to me. You're not worrying about the fruits of whether what you did was good or bad, whether it's successful or not successful. All of that you give to me. You let go of your attachment to outcome and you just give of yourself. That's what true service is. I got it. I've seen some elements I've seen people do that. But recently, I was reading, I just finished, as we had a little conversation over there, Tattoos on the Heart by Gregory Boyle. I cannot recommend this book highly enough. I know, has anyone else read it besides Sanjani? Not Sanjani, Rashmi. Sanjani's not here. Has anyone else read that besides Rashmi? Okay, that's your assignment. Now let me tell you about this book. It is not a jhana book. It is not a book that's going to, in terms of like, all these ideas, and he does have ideas, but his ideas flow from the experience of the heart. It is an experience. I know Mariana, she's not here today. She's also read it. You are going to just experience, and what happened for me when I first started, it took me a long time to read it, not because it's hard to read, but once I got it, I'm like, oh, I got it. All these like really sweet stories, they make you cry a little bit, and so I'm just going to keep crying through the whole book, but it's not interesting to me. It's not like engaging my mind. I'm like, oh yeah, that's why I should probably read it. Because what it is, it's constant repetition of what unconditional love actually feels like. When I was in writing class, they always say, show, don't tell. That's what this book is. It is showing page after page, story after story, what unconditional love looks like. And what I was telling Jack this morning was, this is actually a very hard talk to give, because that book is so brilliant, and anything I say from it just feels like I'm lessening it. So let me just say I'm a very poor knockoff for Gregory Boyle. That's why I'm inviting you to read the book. But one of the most interesting, and actually this didn't come from the book, I was listening to an interview with him, and he starts the interview with a showstopper. He starts the interview with, you're doing it wrong if you're trying to make a difference. You're doing service wrong if your point is to make a difference. What? What? He said, if you're wanting to make a difference, there's some measurement of whether you're succeeding or failing. He said, the number one, or one of the pervasive questions I've gotten in all, I'm sorry, I forgot, I talked about him in past, but for those of you who don't know, he's a Jesuit priest who has spent his entire time of service in Boyle Heights in LA, which is the highest gang capital, I think, in the world, or at least it was. Mostly Latino gangs, I think one or two African gangs. They're all enemies. And that's his service. He lives amongst them. He has his office. And he soon realized that what they need, the only thing that can stop a bullet is a job. So he created Homeboy Industries, and he would get these kids jobs, and they were so happy to have actual work and get paid for it. And he's always talking about, whenever he's talking a story, he's always saying, and there's a long line of kids out there waiting to talk to me. They were hungering for him. This is his whole life, is service to people that a lot of people just dismiss and call irrelevant. And so he said along the way, the question, and he's been interviewed by Welk Wallace, he's won all sorts of awards, and he said, I continue to get the same question from journalists and from people who are trying to raise money, trying to decide if they want to give us money, is what is your success rate? And he said, how do I answer a question like that? How do I answer a question, is this successful? It's a measurement. How do I measure something like this? And that goes back to, am I making a difference? So he's not doing this just abstractly. He's had to work through this in his heart every day. How do I measure what I'm doing here? Am I making a difference or not? And he has so many stories, and there was a few I wanted to find, but I didn't mark them. So there's some anyway. So I'll just go with the last one. So he meets this. So people love getting jobs through him. People see that if a gang member goes to him, gets a job, their life starts to change. So he gets a call from this kid, and he said, "Yo, G," they call him G. can you get me a job? And he's like, I don't even know who you are. Maybe we should just sit down and talk. So he drives to this kid's house. He's always going out to the world. They come to him, but he also goes out to them. And he's getting to know him. He said he's 16, he's lanky, tattoos, they all have tattoos. And the kid said, he says, so do you have any idea of what kind of job you'd like to do? And the kid, without missing a beat, yes, I want to learn computers. And he said, well, I don't know what we have. Let me see what I can do for you. So he goes away, and a couple days later, he said, at the homeless nonprofit organization in LA, a whole bunch of computers were dropped off. So I set up a deal with them that you go to school in the morning, and then from 1 to 5, you'll go to LA and go to their organization, and they will teach you everything they can about computers for those 4 hours, 5 days a week, and I will pay you. So it will be like your job to learn about computers. And the kid's excited, Chico's excited, and Father Boyle, working with this population a lot, it's like, who are not used to working, okay, let's be clear. Monday morning, you're getting up, and they go through the whole schedule, and then at 1, you're going here, and I'm going to hear about it. You have 2 bosses, the other guy and me. If you don't show up, I'm going to get a call. I'm going to follow through. So Monday, I never know what to call him. They all call him G, but I feel weird calling him that. So I'm just going to call him Father Gregory. Is waiting for the call that he got there. He must be got there. He's in his head. Monday at 5 p.m. Oh, okay, his shift is over. He's going home. And he's expecting to hear from Chico. He's not hearing from him. Tuesday, hasn't heard from Chico or the people there. Wednesday, hasn't heard from him. Now he's like, uh-oh, a little concerned. Thursday, 3 p.m., a thing comes through faxed. It's all capital letters. Hey, G, they're teaching me about the fax machine. I'm learning all sorts of stuff. Love, Chico. P.S. I love this job. Thank you for getting it for me. And so Father Gregory starts to give him his paycheck, so he drives out to his home every week. And he said, sometimes usually I have to get out of the car, find the guy. Not Chico. Chico always comes running out. As soon as he sees my car, hops in the passenger seat, and he's not leaving. He's asking me a ton of questions on who God is, and does God know about, and it's like, it's like this connection. He's so alive, and I love this kid. And then 2 months after he gets on the job, he gets a call. She goes outside a little bit down the street from his house, drive-by shooting, and he was shot. They don't know if he was paralyzed or not, so he goes to the hospital, and the doctor said, the bullet went up higher than they usually do. We don't know if he has brain damage or not. So he goes to see Chico, Gregory, and he's sort of numbed out. He's not responding. So Gregory's talking to him through his ear and gives him an anointing and leaves. And he said just all those memories. He said it was so hard to go back. The next day he was so afraid. And he went back and he said, hey, he whispers in his ear, hey, Chico. And Chico's eyes open and look at him. He's like, I'm here with you. He said, you have to know, we all love you. And Chico's just tears are coming down his eyes. And he can't talk yet, but he said, I could tell his face was like, help me get out of this body, help. And he says the hardest thing, he does the anointing. He says, I had to leave. And a week later, Chico dies. They're at the graveyard, and he does the service. And he said, sometimes you just have to let the grief, I try to show up for everyone else, but he said there's just been too many deaths. I think in that last week, 2 weeks or something, he said there'd been 8 deaths. And these are people he knows, that he's given his heart to. And he just said, I just had to feel it. So he went off, found a little lonely tree by himself, and just starts crying and letting himself feel the grief. And then he said the mortician comes in. He feels invaded. He's annoyed with the mortician. And the mortician says, oh, no, but neither of them are saying anything. So he says, man, now that was a terrific kid. And the mortician said, he was? And it just got to him. People just see this as like a 16-year-old gangbanger, tattoos. That's all they say. What they see is he's a worthless life. Why did you spend your time with him? What value did it give? Was that a success? Does that go in the success or the failure mark? You cannot judge it. We don't know when we are giving something, whether it's a success or a failure, what he is doing. There is a lot of death. And when he was doing this from 88 to 98 was the heyday of just deaths by gang members. It's gone down. I think in 1992 he said there were 1,000 murders in the LA area, gang-related murders. I mean, it's just so much death. And you're giving your heart over and over and over and over. How do you keep going? Well, you don't do it, as he said, by measuring your success. He said, if I'm sitting with somebody before me and I'm worried about my success, I'm worried about telling people this is a success, I'm going to approach it completely different, because now I'm trying to get them to be better for me. To say, look what I did. I helped this kid. Look what, and I'm thinking, I'm not present with him. I miss all these extraordinary moments just to be love with them, because when I'm not measuring, I'm not separate from them. I am not me, healer, helping them. I am one with them. We are every moment I'm with anyone. I'm fully with them, and my heart is giving to them, and they are giving it to me. And there's no separation. There's nothing to measure. And he kept saying, there's nothing to measure here. And that just got me. You know, it was 6 years ago that I had my aneurysm yesterday. And the one message that I remember more than any message when I was on the other side is, do not measure. There is nothing to measure. So to be reading this book and saying, there is nothing to measure, this is the karmic path. You just give yourself fully, because you are one, not just you and me. We are one with everybody. Everyone is part of our community. And when we open our heart and see and give ourselves, we are changed. Even as we're giving, we're receiving. There was another story where someone close to that to a group had died, and it was devastating. And this boy Freddie, who had been part of it, and Father Gregory's in his office, and just the weight of what just happened, this other death gets to him. And Freddie comes in there and he says, man, you look like you got the weight of the world. You have so much grief. He said, if you offered me $1 million, or if I could take away your grief, I would take away your grief. The love that came from this 23-year-old gangbanger towards the priest. There's no separation. When we give ourselves, it comes back to us. Giving and receiving are one, because there's no separation. You give and you don't get exhausted, because you're constantly receiving as you're giving, because you are that to what you are giving, and you are receiving from that with, the whole circle. It's one. And that's not just intellectual. That's actually the most real, absolute truth we can walk in when we are giving of service. Is that we are not giving to make them better. We're not trying to be the fixer and the being that's fixed. When you come to a spiritual community, do we need help? Yes, but you're not coming to fix us. We're you and you're us. You're coming to give of yourself, your heart, your being, your love, because it expands us. The thing that amazes me is I don't know much about Father Gregory's training. I know he's a Jesuit Catholic, but very well read, clearly, by his writing. He has learned this by giving of himself. This was stuff he hasn't read in a book. I mean, he might have read it in a book, but he's learned it in his heart. When we give service, that's how we learn. That's how we learn about our heart, and that we are in community and in kinship. It's a word that he uses a lot. We are in kinship with the people we're in community. Are you withholding? Are you just sort of staying on the outside? Or are you just saying, I'm here because I choose to be here? And sometimes, I don't say it much, but sometimes we say if you're here for a reason, a season, or a lifetime, even if you're here 1 or 2 times, you can just there's garbage on the floor, I'll put it away. Like and not just here, wherever you are, you can make a difference. You can give of yourself because you choose whether you belong. You can go into a grocery store. I belong here. Go to wherever, anywhere, to a new organization. I belong here because you choose to. Because you choose to bring your fullness of who you are. No matter where you are, no matter who you're with, whether you're strangers or not. When I went to Agape, I didn't know the people. And I held myself back. And guess what? I didn't get much back. It wasn't until I gave of my heart and my soul that suddenly I could see myself and the other beings that I was in community with so much better. This is the power in spiritual community. We're doing it together. You can do it at your work. You can do it in your family. You can do it at home. Give yourself, I love the example of washing the pots. You just give yourself to where God is everywhere. God is everywhere, and you are everywhere. Wherever you are, wherever you go, there you are. So God is everywhere, and you are everywhere. So you can give yourself no restrictions, no limits, no qualifications, unless the only limits is if you're unsafe. Let's be very clear. Boundaries are healthy, and we don't give ourselves if it's unhealthy. And I'll share one. It's kind of, I only do it because, well, no, I won't share that story. Never mind. I have so many stories in my head, but I like, we won't go because it gets too much. So my invitation to all of us, as we conclude the karma yoga, you can do it with devotion. You can do it with curiosity and inquiry. You can do it with this meditative I am, but to give of yourself. Because every one of us, the thing about karma yoga is every one of us is a human being, so we're all giving of ourselves. Everyone, we all are doers. On some level, we are a being, but every one of us is a doers. We have a home, we have a life, we have relationships, we have jobs, or maybe you're retired and you have communities. You have this beautiful spiritual organization of which you're a part. Even if you're online, you are part of this community. When you come on a Sunday morning, are you thinking, how can I give of myself today? How can I give a smile to someone? How can I just be an energetic, loving embrace for somebody, or an ear for somebody? If you're online, how can I show up online to be a beneficial presence? I love that. I actually never thought about it, but that's a quote that a language that Michael Beckwith uses, a beneficial presence, to get up online and say, how can I be of service? It changes our lives. We don't get drained if we're not doing it you don't do it to become, I'm just repeating what he said and then I'll end, but because I just think it's so important. It really hit me. I'm just going to give you a little side note. This whole month, after Sunday services, I go to Starbucks. I journal for hours. I get so much from these talks. Thank you, Harriet. No, it just gets me going. So that's why I have to keep learning. Stop talking. Because there's so much here. But the part that really got me, and I'm still with it, and that's why I keep repeating it, because I'm still learning it, I'm still taking it in, is that we don't give service to make a difference. We give service because it's who we are. We give ourselves and we receive ourselves because we all are who we are. You are who I am. You are who each other are. We are all one another. And that's this entire extraordinary cosmic world in which we are living. We are truly already one. And when we give of ourselves, that's putting that idea of oneness, it's giving it life, it's giving it breath, it's giving it vitality. And that's the joy of the karmic path. Let's pray. So we remember that this presence and this power is this cosmic, oceanic presence of light and delight. It is always this light and delight. It is the absolute truth of all behind all creation. That the more we let go, the more we surrender, the more we open our hearts to the truth of who and what we are, to the truth of who and what this divine presence is, that we begin to see and know and feel it everywhere. And in the midst of all the things that are happening in this world, those things that are painful and those things that are beautiful, we let go of defining them as good or as bad, and we just see it all as God. We see it all as love. We see it all as light. We see it all as this joy that is bubbling up from behind all these experiences is the purity of grace, the purity of love, the purity of freedom, the purity of joy. And so we hold to that purity of light and that joy and know that we are made in the image and likeness of this joy, that in the face of all that is unfolding in the world in front of us, on the other side of our eyes, that seems and we can experience the incredible grief and the pain and the challenges that we see, and it can feel all overwhelming and our heart can't take it anymore. And yet, when we just surrender and be present with it, we don't try to fix it and make it better. We're present and we give ourselves in whatever way we're being guided to give. The cosmic joy, the cosmic light, the cosmic love opens up in our heart. And we see who we really are in life is, and we are set free in love, and in more love, in love that nothing in this world could ever contain. Every single one of us are this love that nothing of this creative expression in form can ever contain the love that we are. Nothing can contain the love that we are. Nothing can contain the love that this universe is. Nothing can contain the love that this cosmos is. Nothing can contain this extraordinary, vast, oceanic love that is beyond all life. And we get to show up in time and in space, fully expressing from this love, as this love, with whoever is before us, moment by moment by moment. What a gift. What a gift. What a gift. We embrace it, we envelop it, and we give ourselves to it. In giving ourselves to this love, we are that love, and all is well. And so it is. Amen.
I walk in God in all I do. I walk in God in all that I say.